Dr. Rott, you have made a point of making a distinction when you're talking to young people about there's a difference between a feeling and a behavior. It's okay to have feelings, but we have a moral choice that drives behaviors. But of course, our ability to make good choices gets undermined in certain situations. So is there a way in which you counsel talking to young people about the settings in which you make your decisions or the moments when you make your decisions rather than the moments you don't?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first really important lesson to learn is that there's actually a difference between feelings and behaviors. I think a lot of kids don't get that. And so even just a simple exercise I do with teenagers is to say, if you're crushing on someone, what does it feel like? And what are actions that you take? Right? So your heart might flutter. It may feel like you can't think about anything else. You may not be able to stop talking. You might get red in the face. But your behaviors might be things like avoiding the person, stalking them online, asking your friend to talk to them. Right? There tends to be a pretty clear difference between things we control and things that are just like going on for us physiologically. So to get them to see that in a concrete scenario is very important. And then the next thing I do with them is help them think through, what does it mean to put some space and some time in between our feelings and our behaviors? This is extremely important in a world where you can reach into your back pocket and connect with someone instantly. And you often don't have a built-in time. I mean, I remember having to find a time in my house where I could get the phone, the one cordless phone that I could hide in my room in order to talk to the boy that I liked. That took a lot of timing, thought. There were a lot of spaces in there where, I had to think about what I was going to say, what we were going to talk about. But if I get on the bus and I can immediately start texting someone, there's not much thought time there. So I do an exercise with older teens where I give them a couple of scenarios of different relationships that our kids are in. So maybe a 13 and a 14-year-old just started dating. They've known each other, not even dating. They've known each other for like a month. It's Friday and they're going to go out. And then I have a set of note cards. And those note cards have all different kinds of pictures depicted on them. Hanging out with friends, texting, cutting class, sexting, getting a ride, going to a restaurant, going to a movie, thousands of things you could think of that they could potentially do. Many of which I hope they don't do at all, but I put all the cards out. And I ask them, okay, what happens Friday night? And I always say, this is totally not you guys. Like people at your school that we don't know, right? What would they do? And they depict for me what a Friday night would look like. And then we talk about it. And many of them say things like, well, they're 14, they're gonna go out with their friends. They're gonna go eat. They can't drive, so they're not gonna be in a car alone. They're not gonna go back to a house by themselves because they're only 13 and 14. Their parents aren't gonna let them do that. And we find out a lot of the strategic ways that they engage in relationships, choices that they make. I switch it up. I'll say, okay, they're 17 and 18 now. They've known each other for a month. How does the evening change? It always changes a little bit, but not actually that much. I might add things like they've known each other for 6 months. Get the point. What I do when those cards are laid out at the end of the exercise is I reflect for them all the decisions they made, the positive decisions they made about what kind of date to go on, who to be with on that date, what behaviors to engage in or not engage in, how technology played a role, whether they were sexting ahead of time or whether they chatted afterwards, whether they posted pictures. And the good thing about this is each one of them is a card, so it's a physical representation of a choice. So I can literally say to them, I move them with my feet often, I pull them out of the way and I say, choice number 1, choice number 2. All of these cards are choices, and most of them were moral choices. They were choices about how your values were going to be enacted in the relationship you were in. And for the most part, even though these were scenarios of people you don't know, you all made really great moral choices. You made decisions about the kind of relationship you want to be in. You didn't let some unknown feeling drive the night. You were intentional, And so I just want them to walk away from that exercise knowing that in real life, they make those choices. They're not inevitable. They could stand up to a kid who says, no, just everybody get in the car, it doesn't matter how much I drank. Or that they could actually plan ahead and not go to a party where there's gonna be drinking. That if they didn't wanna be in a situation alone with someone, that they would choose to go out with a group of friends instead of one-on-one. But that they can see that those choices ahead of time matter for the kind of behaviors that they might engage in later on in that night or in the long-term relationship.